Bob, sometimes when I'm going through a borrower's asset statement, like their checking account or savings account, and I'll see regular deposits, like in the checking account, I'll see direct deposits for payroll. Sometimes I'll see a $50 or $100
Right.
deposit. And then all of a sudden I see this $5,000 deposit and I'll ask the borrower, where'd that come from? And sometimes in a snippy tone, they'll say, what do you care where that came from?
Yeah, I've come across that as well. It almost sounds like sometimes they just don't want to tell you.
Yeah, and when you're buying a house, we have to verify all the funds being used for a purchase.
Yeah, and you know what, Rick? Let's talk about that.
Hello and welcome to this episode of What's Their MO? I'm Rick Masnick.
And I'm Bob Orlando, and today we want to talk about verifying assets when going through the mortgage process.
Yeah, and when a person's applying for a mortgage, as part of the documentation that they provide, they're required to provide any statements where they're going to be using funds towards the purchase, like a checking, a savings, investment account, and so on. And one of the things that the underwriter is doing is they're looking at the deposits in the account, because obviously if you're buying a house and all of a sudden there's this large unusual deposit on one of your statements, we need to show and prove where those funds came from.
Yeah, and part of the reason is to show that you have the ability to save up some funds for yourself, and that the funds are either earned funds or they're gifts from, say, a family member. You can have a gift from a family member, but it's something that we're going to need to verify. But if you're a person, say, working part-time, you maybe have some cash, you get some cash on hand, that's usually funds that we can't use, so they may have to look at other avenues for down payment cash purposes.
Yeah, and nowadays, another way to show funds is through an electronic asset verification system. And what happens in that case is the mortgage lender can send a borrower a link. They fill out or they enter in their login and their password, just like they'd be going into their own banking account information online. It's all safe and secure. And what that does is it allows the bank to send the lender a 60-day activity report, and then we can see all the activity from the past 60 days, including all those deposits.
Yeah. Now, you still have to show evidence of where the large deposits came from, but one nice thing about using electronic asset verification is that when the borrower provides a down payment and deposit checks, we need to show that they're both, they've cleared the account. We can do that with just a simple click of the button, and the system will then update for 60-day statements, and we can see that the funds have closed, and we get you ready for closing.
Yeah. As far as any large deposits are concerned, if we can't prove that it's from an acceptable source, we've gone over that in a previous episode, we not only can't allow the borrower to use that in the transaction, we can't even allow it to be counted as assets on the loan application. And sometimes we're doing a program or working with a program where the borrower is required to have like a couple months worth of the mortgage payment still in the bank after closing. We can't count those funds towards that reserve requirement. And if it's a gift, we have to prove where it came from, which includes getting the donor's bank statement to show that.
Right. Yeah, so you can't take cash and put it into a family member's bank account and then ask them to write a check, because it looks like you're getting a gift, but we can still work with a gift. We'll have to see the deposit, going into the bank account and the funds that you'll have available to show coming from, say, a legitimate source, for the gift.
Yeah. Now, if you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you know someone else that this information could benefit, please pass this video on to them. But for now, that concludes this episode of What's Their MO? I'm Rick Masnick.
And I'm Bob Orlando, and we'll see you next time.